Companies are going to need to change the way that they view their employees. That master-servant relationship that existed 50, 60 years ago no longer stands today. What am I talking about? So you used to be a business owner and you hire a bunch of staff, pay them an amount of money for their salary and expect them to work certain hours. But life is very different now. The introduction of the internet, the way that we communicate, the introduction of new technology and the speed that we can actually be connected and switched on all the time has changed the way that we work. But that also has not been reflected in the relationship between employer and employee. Now, we all know and we've all seen high rates of burnout, something that we've never seen before. Low retention rates of staff, knowledge just walking out of the door. Why is that? Because there's an expectation to deliver and keep delivering and be more productive. But there needs to be a mindset shift from both the employer and the employee perspective. First of all, the employer itself needs to reconsider how they're actually treating their staff. They need to think of them more as partners rather than that master-servant relationship that existed a long time ago. And employees need to reassess what's important for them and what makes them interested in a job. On the surface level of that, employees would say, oh, I like the status or the title of the job that I've been given or the salary. Now that might exist for maybe a year and it seemed like the thing that you want. Yes, you can afford a shiny new car or a bigger house, but fundamentally that's not connected to what is important to you. Now, with the likes of the internet and availability of technology, the barriers to entry for anyone to start their own business or be connected with anyone across the other side of the world and work for them remotely means that you can literally start a business from your sofa if you want to. So companies need to rethink how they attract and retain employees. First of all, get to know your employees better, understand them at a deeper level. What is it that they're actually after? But this also requires that to be measured from the employee's perspective. What are they looking for from a company? So things like community, the ability to use their talents, excitement, community, everything along those lines, not just the simple things, the surface level things that we take as salary, titles, etc. I was reminded the other day of a story I was once told when I first started working in London, and there was a manager who explained to me when he first started work, let's say 50 years ago now, he had something called job and knock, and I didn't understand what this actually was. So I asked him, and he explained when he first started working in London, he could go into his office and he would do the work that was required from him. And when he was done, he just knocked on the table, and that indicated to everyone that he was going home. Now, I considered, would that actually work in today's day and age? And it wouldn't, because we currently think very differently. But if we changed our mindset and thought about it in a different way, how much more productive would we actually be? Now, if I was to put myself in that scenario and I said, right, okay, I can leave earlier, I get something back for myself if I get the things done that I need to. Now, obviously, there needs to be some care around this and some guidelines. You can't just let the quality of work diminish and let things go and pretend that you've done something when you haven't. So that quality and the output still needs to be there. But ultimately, you would change the way that you work. You would do the hard thing. You know that that's the thing means that you have some freedom and time and flexibility at the end of your day to get something done so you can leave. Now, you make that a priority. You would start also questioning all of the things that are important. Now, think about it in the day-to-day context. How many meetings do you attend that are absolutely useless, that you don't need to attend, that could have just been summarized by a couple of meeting points at the end of the day? So when you have that ability and that freedom and flexibility, I think staff will start to work together and say, right, okay, let's put meetings in at 9 o'clock, no meetings after the afternoon. And just they would work together and they would prioritize the work that was essential, but they would also take out the things that weren't adding value. Now, this might seem like a strange concept, but think about how you work and think about how all the other people in your office work. The problem today is that we pretend to be busy. So we just sit at our desks, typing away. We think maybe we're doing something that's really important, but it's not. It's just busy work. It's not really adding any value, but we do it because we're paid to be there for a certain amount of time. Now, if you had the ownership to say, as long as you get the thing done that you need to get done and you leave, how would that change your mindset in terms of wanting to come back to that office, knowing that if you worked and you focused on those things, you would cut out all the noise, you would cut down on the breaks, the coffee, the distractions, everything, and you would work together with your colleagues to make sure that you win something back for yourself, and that will be extra time. Now, we saw this with the pandemic and a lot of remote working and the way that people actually operated. There was a big fear that productivity would go down. But what surprised many companies is that productivity went up because people weren't having their managers looking over their shoulders. They weren't thinking, oh, I've got to pretend to work. They could work and do the things that they needed to do, and they got stuff done. The problem is today that we look at the process and how people are doing it, so they look busy. But what we should be looking at is the result. We also end up doing so much stuff that isn't important. So we probably have so much work assigned to a client that brings in no money for us. It's probably the biggest problem child for us. It creates more headache, more overhead, and probably what we earn from that is actually minimal. Yet we have clients that exist that are well paying, pay on time, are a pleasure to deal with, and there is a great relationship. So things like that would start you to think, okay, why do we need that first client that is a pain for everybody, causes all these problems, and doesn't bring any value to us? It actually takes away from us and probably in many ways costs us money. So changing the way that we do things from a staff or employee perspective, giving over the ability to be autonomous over your job is such a game changer. I was given autonomy over my job previously, and I'd never been given it before. People had said in other companies, yes, you can go and do what you want. But the reality was it was just lip service. But I got to experience it for myself. And having the power of autonomy over your job, being able to do what you want, when you want to do it, and how you want to do it. This literally was a game changer for me. And do you know what? I only focused on the important things. I took away all the noisy stuff that wasn't important, the stuff, the day-to-day stuff, and I could extract myself from it. It didn't matter when I was in the office. What mattered was the result. And I can guarantee you, if you gave that power to employees, they know they do the work day in, day out. Yes, again, it would take a mindset shift to think differently, to get yourself out of that seat and to leave. And that culture of, oh, okay, well, they're leaving and I'm staying, that would need to change. But that's a mindset shift. And it will take a small section of people to do it, and then others would start to follow. But it would also require management to think differently, because the problem is that management go, oh, well, that employee has left at, say, lunchtime. Well, I could have got more productivity out of them in the afternoon. They're not there. That is an old way of thinking. Now, that person, when they've left the building, they don't necessarily switch off. If you're capable of doing that, that's a brilliant thing. But the reality is they're going to go home in their car, on the train, or however they get home. Maybe they're going to go and do some shopping or something, pick up their child. But there'll still be something in their head that pops up when they're thinking about something else. But they're not charged that, are they? They don't charge the company for that thought. But because they're involved in that, they're still thinking about work, even though that they're doing some other activity. But companies don't see it that way. They say, you need to be in this office working this amount of time. But creativity and great ideas don't sit behind a desk 8 hours a day. Now, if you do that, if you go away and you think differently, you're away from your environment, you might come up with a brilliant idea that you can change that makes your job more efficient or the company more efficient, or an idea or something, a better way to win clients or something. But because you're stuck in your desk thinking or pretending to be busy, that creativity dies. But managers need to rethink that. They need to give autonomy and ownership to the staff. They know what they're doing. Okay, yeah, you need to train staff up. But those people that have worked in that position, they know better than anyone else. And I see this time and time again. Employees will go to their managers with a great idea and they want to run with it, but the manager won't allow them to do it because it feels like they're losing control. And that's not it at all. I guarantee you, you give autonomy to an employee to run with an idea, even if it doesn't work, they've learned, they've built their self-confidence, and they will try again. And that builds something. That is something that will bring that employee back to that company, knowing that they can come, they have a vested interest in trying new things, into thinking differently, and have control over their life. Again, a very radical and different way of thinking, and it requires support from both sides. You cannot continue as an employee just thinking, oh, this person has this salary, this person has this status, I want this. That doesn't exist. You need to think about yourself and what you want and look to see what the company can offer you. Now, when we talk about talent management, I understand the concept of it, but I think we need to flip that, because talent management exists from the company's perspective rather than the employee's perspective. So if you look at any job description that says talent management, it's maybe within an HR department. And the focus is from the company's perspective. They spot talent within the company to promote that person so they can do a better job to make more money for the company. That talent should be the other way. Just engage with your employees, see what they're good at, what they like, how you can make that job not just fit into the box or the job description, how you can make that job so much better for the employee that they bring all their natural skills and abilities into a role that probably doesn't even exist. Maybe it's negotiation skills. Maybe you know, someone that was just in operations could actually be very good at negotiating with clients, who actually enjoyed that conversation. But everything used to be in boxes, but people don't fit in boxes. They want more than that. And the problem is, if companies continue just to put people in boxes and pay that way, employees will just leave. They don't need that stress. They can start their own business or join another company where they can just bang out work from home and have more time for themselves. The reality is, this feels like it's a loss for the company, but it's not. If you engage with your staff, get to know them as a person in their work and their private life, and see how you can bring all of their skills into the company, that will mean that that employee looks forward to coming to work, gets to stretch themselves, gets to be ownership over their own work. And this will mean that they'll want to stay in that company. And reputation spreads, and you'll build more of a solid company. And again, there's a lot more to discuss about this. So I'm happy to talk about it. Put something in the comments and we can talk about other areas. And I know there'll be a lot of comments to say, okay, it won't work in this industry. But it just might. You just need to think differently and see what's going on and question pretty much everything. But it all starts with that shift and that relationship between the owner of the company or manager and the employee. Both sides need to change, and that culture and that interaction needs to be more of a partnership and more honest and transparent, because otherwise those businesses are going to fail. Those employees are going to go elsewhere, and they'll probably just go to the next company that's offering them a little bit more money, which won't serve them in the long run, because they'll still dislike their job, because they're looking for more. They're looking for more connection, community, the ability to use their talents and not be compared to all of the other employees on the bell curve so they get a pay rise or a bonus that year. So make your company an interesting and enjoyable place to come. Give autonomy. Don't treat your employees like children. They're not children. They don't need that. They know, they're smart, they're clever. Let them come up with their own ideas. Give them freedom and autonomy over their job and see what happens. Thanks for listening. Again, I'm happy to see any of your comments. Even if you disagree with my opinion, that's fine. I'd love to hear about it. Just put a comment in and maybe I'll make another video in line with this to tackle any of your comments. Okay, thanks.